New intro or?
Okay, I got it.
Don't you dare, Ref. She got the ball.
Yes, all of you lovely European finalists. How are we, everybody? This is going to be your Crystal Palace match preview. We're doing it a day in advance because we are, as you can tell, live in person. We are live from London, from the Irish Hotspur Towers, let's call it, in this situation. But big up to everybody. Thanks for making this all possible, and thanks for joining us for this match preview. In case you aren't aware, or maybe you were not around for the previous stream, we did a photo glimpse review of Thursday night's performance and just the feeling of being European finalists. So in case you might have missed that, would encourage you to check it out. I think we'll kind of get things started off as maybe for the people who might have missed that, though. We'll just do kind of some takeaways, nothing too major, though, and then we'll actually get into this Crystal Palace game. So we'll go to the Godfather, Nick, because he's the guy that is making this all possible. Everything that you see, everything that you hear, this man has lugged it all in a suitcase for us and has made everything possible on every end of things, on multiple streams, not even just this one. But Nick, I mean, your takeaway, let's say, hard to take only one, but your big takeaway.
Hard to take only one. I appreciate the kudos, but the Godfather, because I look like fat old Marlon Brando.
Making you sound older than you need to be.
Yeah, what I told you was that the sooner this guy will come good, eventually he will sober up and he will not fuck up.
That is my Godfather impersonation.
I haven't sobered
up. And I'm going to stop that right now.
I haven't sobered up.
But that is my one takeaway, man. Really, I'm shocked that we were able to rely on Basuma in the way that we did. Besides from a shock at the ability to put in a really professional performance specifically, and I know I'm taking a lot of words out of other people's mouths because a lot of people have said professional, but that's exactly what that was on Thursday night. And it was a shock to see that we can focus like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so many other questions are brought up about the rest of the season. Why? The questions are why? Why can't we do that on a consistent basis? You know, why have players' heads been out of the Premier League since the beginning of the season?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, we can go into that more, but you know, it's my biggest takeaway is that these guys can work as a team when it's really important.
Yeah.
When they decide that it's important.
Yeah.
For you, Dave, your big takeaway? I know it's hard to only have one, but maybe your big takeaway from the game?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is that I think we've got a decent first 11 or a decent maybe 14, 15. But I think the rest of the squad outside of that in general needs massive improvements this summer if we want to try and compete, you know, across multiple competitions next season, because can't get into the realms of, oh, we're going to bin this one off and we're going to compete here. Yeah, this season, the way it's panned out with injuries and everything else, you can maybe understand it. But I think, you know, moving forward, I think this season has shown the importance more than ever before of actually having a squad game, because, you know, people go after Postecoglou and stuff like that. But the reality is, you know, the squad will never, ever get tested to its limits the way it has done this season.
Yeah.
And I think that's merit that the squad hasn't been good enough, or the squad isn't deep enough with quality the way we need it moving forward. So I think that's my biggest takeaway. But again, I think, you know, match specific, I would say, again, professional form. It's 11 men digging in, doing what needs to be done. You know, something that we've maybe seen towards the back end of the campaign, that maybe we had it earlier on in the campaign. Maybe we wouldn't have suffered all the defeats we have. But I think thoroughly professional performance the other day. And it shows that we can do it when it needs to be done.
I think the big takeaway, which I might have gone very early on with the Frankfurt tie, but I did say that Spurs in the Europa League have been showing two sides of themselves. They can dominate a team, create lots of chances, you know, deserve in cases 2, 3, 4 goals, you know, if even. But then, as a European finalist, if you really expect to win a trophy, you have to have the other side of yourself where you can see out the result. Once you get that lead, once you are kind of in the ascendancy, can you keep sort of the gates shut? Can you keep the doors closed? And I think they have done that, both against Frankfurt, a team that we all said going away from home, it'll be impossible to keep a clean sheet. The tie is practically over. No one has ever beat them in their stadium in X amount of games. You know, they're European winners themselves. You know, they have that know-how when Spurs don't. I think we did a very, very good job of, you know, closing the doors on them away from home. And then the same thing was said about Bodo Glimt. It was like, oh, look at the scalps that they've taken.
Yeah.
You know, they're even cocky, you know, going back to their own place. You see their own players saying, oh, we haven't, you know, we've seen better presses in Norway, you know, 3-1 lead.
Yeah.
You know, we'll have no problem getting back from that. Spurs, I mean, I think we could have played potentially another 90 minutes. It could have been 180 minutes that I don't think Spurs would have conceded to that Bodo Glimt team. And it's not something I've said very often about Ange Postecoglou and the Spurs team, that they're a side that weirdly or strangely or very impressively have been able to show two sides of themselves. And I think, in my opinion, that is the ingredients of winning a trophy, in all honesty. You have to be able to do both.
No, 100%. But I think what it comes down to is having our back five. You know, if you go and look at the stats, you know, the points per game, when we've had Vicario, Dogi, Porro, Van de Ven, Romero, compared to when we've had them without, it's absolutely night and day. You know, so I think a lot of that defensive solidity comes down to us with our back five. But the problem we've got is 3 of them players are probably injury enough prone across that back five. So, you know, that's where next season they have to really sort out the likes of the medical science, sports science, you know, the physio departments and stuff like that, because to your point, it's crucial. If we want to be defensively solid, we want to keep clean sheets. It's that back five that's proven they can do it. When you start bringing in likes of Radu, Davies, Danzo, which I do like, Danzo, there's just a massive drop off in quality. It's that simple.
I mean, Dermotron, your big takeaway. I know it's only hard to have one, but I'll condition you to one if you can.
I told you.
Fair. Yeah, fair.
Mic drop from the Dermotron there. Well, everybody, like I said, if you did want to hear some of our Bodo Glimt thoughts, you're certainly welcome to become a member. But in case you are already a member, that is what we did in the previous stream. I know the thumbnail's a little bit confusing, but it is a Bodo Glimt review. And we're going to get into what should be the Crystal Palace game that we will all be attending tomorrow, by the way. So we would love to see you all there. Look out for posts, tweets, that sort of thing about where you might be able to find us in case you want to find us, or maybe if you want to stay as far away from us as possible. But we're going to get into the first question here. And since Dermotron only gave me a one-word answer, I'll go to him, you know, to give him as much time as it. No, please. You know, I like it. The mic drop. happy clappy mood at Crystal Palace tomorrow, Dermo.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be singing and singing. Spurs are on the way to Bilbao with the whole game. We're going to have Dave fan surfing. We're going to get him. We're going to get him somewhere. But you know, it's going to be a party atmosphere, and that's what you want. We've got to a European final, so yeah, it would be a bit for a party atmosphere tomorrow. But I'm sorry, Tottenham, bloody win tomorrow. Yeah. I haven't come all the way over from Ireland to watch us lose. Yeah. I've only seen this win once at that stadium, and that's when we beat Brighton the last time I come over. Me and Nolly were hugging each other when we scored in that last minute. So win tomorrow, for Christ's sake, just win. Yeah. But I'm just looking forward to doing some fan surfing with Dave. Along the North Stand, he's going to start one way. He's probably end up in the Palace end, and they were taking them all the way around the stadium. So, yeah, that's going to be the main thing tomorrow, Dave. What do you reckon?
I think tomorrow's a bit of a weird day in general. I think we're going to touch on it, but, you know, we've got the protest beforehand. And then as soon as that's finished, everyone's going to be inside singing we're on our way to Bilbao. You know, it's going to be a bit of a weird day. You know, you're showing your frustrations at the football club. And then you're going to be singing about going to Europa League final. And it's just...
We'll be eating our vegetables first.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and then you eat chips later, as I like to do. But I think it's going to be a bit of a weird day. But also in general, you've got to remember, like, you're going to see two B teams out there. Yeah, Palace are going to rest their players for the FA Cup final, and we're going to rest a lot of our players because... coming off the back of playing on the AstroTurf, you know, it puts extra minutes into your legs. It's tough on the legs. You know, you do be sore after it and stuff like that. So I think, you know, in order to protect players and make sure they're ready for the Europa League final next week or in 11 days' time, I think you're going to see Postecoglou make a load of changes. So, in effect, I don't think you're actually going to see a great quality game whatsoever. But I think the fact that Palace make changes, hopefully, to Darmo's point, will give us the victory. But also, from Palace's point of view, they're just going to be sitting there with the drum speaking and singing of the FA Cup final. So actually, you've got two sets of fans that actually don't really give a shit about the product on the football pitch because both ends are going to be singing "We're here." One's going to be singing "We're on our way to Wembley," and the other one's going to sing "We're on our way to Bilbao." So in effect, it's just going to be one weird day. Actually,
all you should do is put a band in the middle of the pitch. Just put people singing. Forget about the game, and just have a concert. Have a concert.
Can we call it a draw?
Just have a party for 90 minutes.
Do you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if the players speak to each other on the pitch and say, "Look, no crunching tackles today. We both got finals coming up." You know what I mean?
Yeah, they might just play it like it's sort of a five-a-side game. Then, you know, just sort of have it being kind of nice and chill. I mean, Nick, that's the hope tomorrow, right? Is that it's not going to be a funeral like some of us were fearing, because if we had lost that game, it would have been a little ugly. It would have been a down mood. But the fact that we did win that game, I expect it to be a jovial atmosphere, which would be nice.
I think it will be, man. But you know what? It's we've, especially this season, seen really great performances, and then immediately the next game after that, it's just a horror show. And I think that if it really is like that, I mean, we know it's going to be a B team or something akin to a B team. But if the players are playing without cohesion, where there's just straight passes everywhere, we get made look like fools with a couple of scrappy goals, and we end up losing and looking silly, as we have done this past season. I think it's going to take the wind out of a lot of people going forward, because we've already seen it happen. Nobody wants to see that. We need to see some kind of a resolute performance, even if it's just the kids, even if it's just, it's back line of Danzo, and Davies, and whoever Postecoglou decides to fit, chop, and change in there. The team has to play like they've been playing together, because we've seen it not look like that too many times. And it's going to take if we have a terrible first half, it's going to really bring us down.
But to that point, though, Nick, that's where I've been a bit disappointed this year, because and I would argue this is the same with any manager, since Pochettino at Tottenham, since I've started doing this YouTube shit. But it's like anytime they make rotations, all of a sudden everyone's going, he's throwing this game. It's like, we're Tottenham Hotspur. No manager should be throwing any game. It's not the case he's throwing the game. He's got to keep his best players. He's got to think, right, you've got a big game coming. My best players are the ones that are more than likely going to help us compete in that game. So I have to make rotations here. But where I've been really let down is a lot of them players are sort of going in with the same attitude as the starting 11. It's like, we'll rest ourselves for midweek for Europa. And it's like, hang on. You're going to be riding the bench on Europa, and you're probably not even going to get off the bench. So what are you taking it easy for? And this is where I've been really let down with a lot of the squad players. I think if you're a player, For instance, Udebird the other day, last week against West Ham, prime example, right, scored. Now, if he went on and had a brilliant game, took the game to them, got on the ball and done what a winger's supposed to, he probably would have started Thursday night,
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I don't think some of these squad players actually realise, that if I play well here, there's a view of me actually getting in the Europa League, which is where Tottenham's focusing, where I want to play. I want to be in that first 11. I've been really let down and pissed off by the motivation of some of these guys. It's almost like when they come here and they're told you're a squad player, grand, I'll just roll out. Whatever performance comes out, and I'll take my wages and I'll see you again in another 4 weeks. I'm fed up with it. If I'm any of them squad players tomorrow, I'm looking at the Europa League in 11 days. And I'm saying, look, with our injury records, there could be a hope here for me. Yeah. I'm going out there and I'm laying it all on the line. It's 11 days away. I don't want to see anyone take their foot off the gas. It's 11 days away. You've got plenty of time. So I actually want to see the fringe players. Passion should be, a given to a certain extent. Yeah. But I want to actually see them go out there and act like they want to be here and act like they've got a purpose. They're playing for a fucking purpose. That's my biggest bugbear with a lot of these squad players. And that's why I keep saying it's got to change this summer, because I'm sorry, I'm fed up with it. You got someone like Ben Davies, he's happy to be a squad player. And then we moan when he's making mistakes, and then we offer him new contracts and shit like that. If we were with modern day football, with the amount of games in it, your squad is so important, more than ever before. That 25-man squad and the quality of it is so, so important. And that is one area that needs to improve. And that's why a lot of this season I've said, look, we can sit here and blame Postecoglou for making changes. Yeah, you can count up. Great, you can count. You can count up how many changes he's made. Brilliant. But at the end of the day, when are we going to question these players? What are you playing for? What's your hunger? What's your motivation? What's your desire?
Yeah, I am going to expect a jovial and, good mood tomorrow. I expect, people to be in some type of happy, clappy mood. But I'll be frank, I'm going to probably go back to Dave on this one. But we had chosen this Crystal Palace game very, very early on.
Manifestation.
Practically at the beginning of the season. And then we started really sweating that decision at some point. We were like, oh, geez, the season didn't go according to plan. We kind of thought this was going to be a nothing game. People were just going to be enjoying the weather, enjoying, kind of the end of the season. Potentially we already, I guess, would have been, in a trophy kind of hunt of some kind. I don't know what we were thinking, but we just kind of thought it would be a nothing game, no consequences, would have been a lot of fun no matter what. Be honest, I was sweating about this game, for probably weeks and months, because the way this season has gone, it felt like this was going to be a funeral of a game to go to. You're kind of thinking, why didn't I just go to a game in December when everything was still, on the line, when the season's not practically over? It feels like we basically rolled everything on 32 black. And now it's worked out for us, to be honest. So, Dave, what did you make of our decision to go to this Crystal Palace game? We did not know this was going to be this way.
No, we didn't. But look, there's two things I'd say to that, Jack. All season long, I've been speaking about having to go through the pain for a greater good. And then I've also spoke about manifestation. You manifest things, you see it, you believe it, and eventually it happens. We spoke about Bilbao at the start of the season. Now, don't get me wrong. There was a period there where I was like, we fucked up completely. Like you said, we should have just gone over in January or whatever, or December, or maybe October when things were better. But, we sort of said, we'll leave it till later on in the season. A, give us money to save up to be able to come here. But B, you just never know. You just never know. And obviously, look, the Premier League's gone tits up. We're just lucky that the Bodo Glimt fell Thursday night. So now it's just going to be one big party atmosphere. My biggest fear coming over here was, and to be honest with you, if we got knocked out, the only reason why I would have came is because you guys made the effort to come all the way over from the United States. If ye weren't here, I wouldn't, and we lost that Europe, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have bothered coming. You're coming for absolutely nothing. But the fact that, that Bodo game is there, now it means the atmosphere, because my biggest fear was, we're going to turn up here. It's going to be dead. It's going to be toxic. Everyone's going to be pissed off. The stadium's going to be half empty. But, things change very, very quickly in football, and that's what I keep saying. But, it's been dicey. But also, I want people to realise, let's not forget, Palace fucking hurt us there earlier on in the season, by the way, guys. They stifled us. They made us look bang average. And almost, I would say, since then, we've, in the league, especially, really sort of failed to really get it back on track. So we owe them one. Let's not forget about that. Now, at Palace, they used the pitch to their advantage. It's a small pitch. They pressed us. They didn't allow us to play out from the back, and they almost bullied us. That's what, they used the pitch to their advantage. This is the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Fuck me. It's bigger than
a
Donald
fortress,
Trump's
yeah.
mansion. Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely huge. There's plenty of space for us to be able to pop it around and play it around them and stuff like that. So we owe them one. Let's go out and pop them 3-4-0. Let's have a better party.
To my fellow Yank, did you feel like we gambled too much on this Palace game, or how did you feel about it? Selecting this game early on in the season, and here we are
You
now.
know what, man? I like the drama of just being a Spurs fan, regardless, whatever.
Wouldn't trade
You
for
know,
anything.
up or down. I love to win, but
Only a fit man can say that. Someone like me can't handle the drama.
yeah, man. But it's especially with the protest and how much steam that started gathering a couple of months ago. I don't. It may be shite. The atmosphere may be terrible, and everybody may have knives out for each other. But it's going to be fucking interesting.
Yeah.
So I was looking forward to it regardless, man. But do you want to touch on? I forget whose question it was,
Paul.
but was is a protest warranted at this stage?
Yeah.
I know we were talking about it yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, people are probably waiting for us to give our opinions on it, so we should probably do that. Fazzy Radfar, thank you for the support, my friend, saying welcome to the UK, lads. Shame I can't meet you this week.
There you go, Faz.
Faz, you've been very, very kind to us. There will be a next time at some point, so
Yeah.
don't worry about it, don't fret about it. But looking forward to meeting so many people, hopefully. Or as people want to avoid us, we will let you know where we will be, and we will be at the protest as well tomorrow. So let's get on to that as Nick has. I mean, I feel like it's going to be a bit strange. I think people will go into the protest happy. Like, imagine some people, including myself, might be pretty well oiled, for the game, and we'll be I'll have a smile on my face, and then all of a sudden I'll have to kind of not necessarily take that smile off my face, but just sort of have to concentrate on the bigger picture of things, which is this has been a horrendous season. Of course, people have their feelings about Postecoglou's, responsibility for that, but a lot of us do feel like more of it has to do with, once again, a manager being hamstrung by this ownership and by the lack of investment, or in just some cases, the poor recruitment, poor choices. We've had issues with the medical staff this season. We've had issues with things off the pitch when, they just get the timings of things perfectly wrong. There's so many things that we just have always felt like the club just continue to just get wrong. They're tone deaf in plenty of situations. And it will be a good jovial mood that we also, I guess, at the same time will be recognizing, if it weren't for this European final, people would be, absolutely fed up with the club. It's a very, very fine line that we have found ourselves in. And of course, we have this wonderful thing to look forward to, but at the same time, there is a bigger picture.
No, 100%. Look, you've got to remember, these protests are more than just this season. Talking about the senior concessions that they took away. You're talking about the hiking ticket prices, hiking everything all the time, despite the quality of the quality that they're producing on the pitch. There's more to it than just what's happened this season. And to be honest with you, I'm okay with the protest going ahead tomorrow. I think, very easily, if we didn't make this Europa League final, all of a sudden you're sitting there 17th in the league. Where do you go from here next season?
You would want the protest then to happen if we didn't make it to the final then.
Well, 100%. But also, you got to remember, like, Daniel Levy's praised for being this great fucking, money man at Tottenham Hotspur. But then we're going into a summer where we're being told we have to sell before we buy because there's no cash flow. So, there's a lot of problems at Tottenham this season. Look, I've always made the argument, I don't think we ever set any manager up to really succeed, I think a lot of our transfers, to a large degree, have been piss poor. We're being told we have to set our best players, even though we built the stadium, we built the training complex and everything you see at Tottenham now, to be able to match the wages of top European clubs and keep a hold of our best players. So there's many reasons why people are down protests, and I think rightly so. At the end of the day, one thing I'm glad that Change for Tottenham have done, and credit to them actually, is they're still going ahead with the protest before the game. But I think if I remember correctly and reading the information yesterday, they're not going ahead with the one that was happening at halftime onwards, where they were maybe encouraging people to give up their seat for the rest of the game. And I think rightly so, they came out and said, no, look, we'll back the team now. With whatever we're going to do outside the stadium. And I think an absolute brilliant call from Change for Spurs, because I think if they would have went with the one in the stadium, I think it would have opened it up for a lot of criticism, a lot of people's opinions and stuff. Whereas I think the fact that they've actually read the room on this, I think will keep more and more people on side. And you know what? Credit to them, because in a year that we've had this year, they've managed to mobilize people. They've managed to get, tug on people's heartstrings to passion. And they've got more numbers down than we've ever seen before. So fair play to them. I will be going tomorrow. I hope numbers do turn up, because at the end of the day, we don't want to rest our hours. So we haven't won Europe. We haven't won anything yet. We haven't won anything yet. And at the end of the day, even if we do win it, we're going to the Champions League next season. I mean, everyone's fearful of how this team's going to do in the Champions League. So, I think it's a good thing to keep maintaining. Coming into the summer where there's a transfer window, hopefully when they're making their decisions on transfers, they factor in the pressure from the fan base.
I mean, Dermo, I believe you'll be there for the protest
Yeah.
as well. I mean, we have to eat our vegetables and we have to see the bigger picture before we get to go off into the happy clapper sunset of the game.
I think so. Yeah, I think there's a bigger picture here. You got to put the Europa League final to one side, and you got to look at the bigger picture, which is Levy and which is the way he's ran the club and the way that we're going into a summer that we might have to sell to buy. And you do, and I'm glad Change for Tottenham have read the room on the leaving your seat at halftime, because I did respond to them on Twitter, and I said, look, this is my only one game a year. I've come over here. I spent a lot of money to get over here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to leave my seat, but I am behind you guys, and fair play to them. They've come out and said, okay, they've read the room, and she said, Dave, but I will be at the protest because we have to keep the pressure on.
Yeah.
We have to keep the pressure on Levy, on the board, to let them know that this is not going away.
Yeah.
And I hope there is a big turn.
Well, it's just to let them know there's demands at Tottenham Hotspur. You can't keep running the club the way you want to run it. Us fans, we have demands. The thing is, they literally. But when they were building the stadium and everything else, fans gave them, fans gave them a bit of leeway, to be able to sit back and do that, right? And it's almost like they got carried away with it. There's no demands here. We can do what we fucking want. The lunatics can run the asylum, and there's nothing here. But I think what they're starting to see now is there is demands with this football club, and I think it's a good thing.
I think if the people turned around and said, right, we're going to cancel the protest tomorrow, I would have been very disappointed. Just say, because we've got to Europa League final, there'd be no protest tomorrow. I'd be very disappointed. But fair play to Change for Tottenham. As you said, they've read the room, but the protest, I hope there's a massive turnout. We've got to keep the pressure on. Yeah. We've got Daniel Levy on the run now. We've gotten worried on the run. You look how many people turned up at the last protest. I want the same again. And let's keep the pressure on. And I'd be at the protest as well. I think you have to be. Yeah. I think you have to be. You have to come over. You have to show you support the team, as Jack says, and we can go and happy clap in and we can do what we want. But before the game, we have to show how much we all love the club. We all have to. So I would appreciate everyone. Please turn up to the protest tomorrow, because it is so important.
Someone made a really good point in the comments that, in a way, Daniel Levy is delighted to be in this European final, but actually the timing then of the protest is good, because it's kind of a sobering moment for him, where he might be in, he'll probably be in a version of whatever a Daniel Levy happy clapper mood is, but he definitely is in some type of one. Nick did mention in the members preview, though, that he's still obviously very nervous because he still wants us to try to win the final. But I mean, Daniel Levy might expect, now that we're in the final, maybe the protest will be called off entirely. People will take their attention away from the bigger picture, and they won't call me out, and they won't, bring attention again to the issues in and around the club for a long time now. But the fact that they still are going ahead with the protest is in a way a good thing. It's sobering for Levy.
Thursday night, he was sitting there delighted. We're through. The protests are done. They're just going to be happy. He was absolutely buzzing. But I think it actually sends out a bigger message of how unhappy Spurs fans are with him, because that's what the protest is about. It's not about the club we love. It's about him and how he runs it. And I think, the good thing about it is the fact that, and this is one thing that the media and people pick up on, and you're hoping there'll be clever articles and, highlighting things, because name me another club that gets to the Europa League final and they're protesting the ownership. Honestly. So I think, from a Tottenham fan's perspective, I think the media will look at that and go, hang on, what's going on here? And I think then you'll start highlighting the senior concessions. They'll start highlighting where Daniel Levy has gone wrong. Because all you ever hear in the media is he's great at this, he's great at that. But they never really sort of have a go at him. They say, well, he spends money. Okay, well, your job as a media personnel is to go into what he spent it on. What did he spend it on? Relegation fodder? Maybe that's a part of the problem. But they don't want to talk about that. They never do. They go, well, he spent money. That's his job done. It's like, well, not really. He also employs the personnel to spend it. He can also fire them if they're mishandling it quickly, rather than let it go on and let them waste 300-400 million to the club's coffers, like Steve Hitchin. So I think, the fact that we're in the Europa League final, there's still protest. I think hopefully it'll work out in the Spurs fans' favour with media and pundits picking up on it and hopefully highlighting the issues off the back of it.
Well, it's funny. I think ironically, the only other club that you might kind of see that kind of thing happen, Man United.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
It'd be one big protest at the final.
Well, they stopped
Yeah,
protesting.
yeah. You know what, though, man? I think we're all in agreement
Yeah.
about, that it's very important that the protest
Yeah.
is there. I take my hat off to Change for Tottenham because it was very shrewd for them to have the ability to call for a
Yes.
halftime protest, but then also have the ability to pull that
100%.
back,
Yeah.
because we've had some success right now in the immediate, but still have a presence known. Because in a social movement like this, and I was saying it right from their first organized one, momentum is key.
Yeah.
And once you lose momentum, you lose visibility. It's very, very difficult
Yeah.
to get it back from this kind of thing. So right from that first one, I was saying, look, this is great. You've got numbers and you've got more press than anybody else has ever had trying to do this.
Yeah.
You have to continue. You have to keep immediately putting your foot on the neck and going forward. So they've got a chance to do it respectfully right now, where we have our protest, but still support the team.
Yeah.
We know what we're protesting against.
You like that reasoning that they used, which is it was not even about what the fans think about this. It was kind of, well, the players have gotten us to this final. What sort of message does that send to them if we were to leave at halftime? They feel like they kind of rationalized it as like we were abandoning them, in some type of way. Do you think that was decent reasoning to you?
I think that's brilliant, actually.
Yeah.
I think it really shows, support where it's needed, and without saying, okay, we just forgive everything and, it's all good. And we'll wait until next month to start protesting again. No. You have to keep the message clear, but, just keep people happy.
I think, look, it's a hard line to sort of maneuver because, and the reason why I say that is because it's very hard to protest, but then also get your support behind the team. It's a very fine line to manage because, a lot of people would say, oh, if you're protesting, you don't back the team, you don't do this, you hate Tottenham and everything else. And it's like, I think they would have won a lot of people over by going, well, because you got to remember, it takes balls to put something out there, but then also retract it and go, look, for this reason and everything else, I think we're going to read the room here and we're going to do this and we're going to pull this back. I think it takes a lot of bollocks.
I think what's different with this protest is that everyone's on board. Every fan that's on board, either you Levy in, Levy out, whatever, you're on board with this because they've made it so accessible for everybody to come along. Do you know what I mean? That it's about Tottenham Hotspur, and that's what the basis of it is about. And I think everyone can get behind that. And now, fair play to them again. They have read the room, and I think they've gained more supporters for that. What they've done now than they've and Nick is right. It is all about momentum, and we have to keep pressing the point. Keep pressing it every game. Do one at the last home game of the season. Press the point. Don't let him think that he can still sit back and relax. Keep him on his toes. Because if he's on his toes, then he will have to spend money. And this is where the Europa League's important. But fair play to them.
I think they've read the room excellently well, but then at the same time, the fact that they're still going ahead with it, I think is very smart. Because I think it will be a great message to Daniel Levy that once again, he's not just going to sort of slime his way out of this, with in a way, a pretty jammy, kind of a way to sort of celebrate the end of the season because it has been a rough one. It's probably been the most roller coaster-ish season. And that's not, people will put a lot of blame on Ange, but a lot of it has to go down towards Daniel Levy because yet again, it's another manager that has probably in some regard been, handcuffed to a bad situation that they've had to make the most out of. And, this has happened too many times and Spurs fans are copping onto it. And so it's good.
Well, look, the thing is, we're bringing in managers that know how to win trophies. I get people questioning the level of Ange Postecoglou, but he knows how to win trophies. And I think, when you see him, when you see Jose Mourinho, Conte, and then him off the back of it, and you're going through managers like their fucking glasses, like Dave's drinking glasses of Coke today. Do you know what I mean? It's not a good situation to be in, and it stinks of internally there's things going wrong. Yeah. If you've got a manager and you have him in the job for 4 or 5 years, it stinks of a club where things are going right and internally things are right. So, I think it's the right idea to put the pressure on because at the end of the day, if we want a manager to succeed, if we want to be able to compete on multiple fronts, like many Spurs fans put the demands on the football club going into the season, I think you've got to get your house in order. It's the only way of doing it.
100%. we do, of course, have some questions about the Crystal Palace game and, of course, about IrishHotspur Chicago. Just want to greet some lovely people. Won't be able to get to all of you because we are in a bit of some time constraints, and we also kind of want to go off and enjoy the weather and still while we're in London. But thank you guys for making this all possible. We have El Dante in the house. I'm going to get to your question maybe later on in the stream, El Dante, about the summer, but good to see you in with us. Thank you to Fast Radfire for the support. Thank you to Carl Simpson as well, saying, I expect Spurs to win tomorrow. Pressure is off since we made the final. They are on a high. Hey, maybe a potential opportunity to have the best week of our entire season. With Arsenal going out, with Spurs getting to the final, and with us being able to go to London and actually be able to watch a game in person. Could it be at least my favorite week this season? Then we have Phil Coys. Big up to you, Phil. Saying big up Dave, Jack, and Dermo. And Nick as well. Hope Spurs will do the business for you and enjoy the whole day. By the way, our names will be etched on that Europa League trophy. Come on, you Spurs. Plenty of people feel like it's destined. Dermotron has said that many times.
Dermotron's already got it engraved.
I think he's
I've got the trophy parade
he's already engraved the trophy.
But the bus book, the parade book, everything. You have to party book the lot.
He's had his tagline since we gotten past Frankfurt. Phil Coys, he's been using it again and again. He feels like, and also I know Soren has said the same thing. He just feels like it's just etched in. Paul Connor has been saying some of the same things. Just feels like, it's just our season. But I guess we'll find out, Phil. And I am hoping to see a win tomorrow. Like I said, it may be the opportunity just to have one of the best weeks, as a Spurs fan. That's what I'm kind of looking forward to. And it'd be cool. We get so many things. We got to, Nick and I got to, experience a game, at the pub, on Thursday. Got to, of course, witness, us going to a final in a very different way. Normally, I'm just screaming at a wall, in my bedroom towards my computer, and thinking that maybe half of you guys are imaginary or something like that. My head is going crazy, but it was nice to actually be around other Spurs fans and experience it in a way, kind of in a different type of setting, a more normal setting, because not everyone gets to, I guess, be in the privileged position that Dave and I are in, where we have all you guys as friends, to do these games with. But it was nice to just sit back, watch the game with a few beers, sing some songs and stuff. And then this Sunday we get to as well, be able to experience the game in the stadium with off the back of, winning that, incredible game. So there should be a good mood. We get to experience a protest, which we've had people on the channel for as well. So I think it's going to be a very potentially encompassing week of a brilliant time.
Well, I mean, look, Arsenal went out of Europe, so I mean, I think Emmerdale is scheduled for 7:00 on the 21st. So, I think they always seem that we're going to be watching Emmerdale, so I think it's their turn this year, so that's good. We drew with West Ham last week. It wasn't the greatest game, but we didn't lose. We were into the Europa League final, beating Bodo Glimt. You beat Palace all of a sudden. Things are looking up a little bit coming out the end of the season. But I think one thing, I was reflecting on this last night, and I think one thing to come out of this whole YouTube malarkey is, the fact that we can all come here to a game. We can all come over here, but we've got friends to go and, people to meet up with, people to hang out with, friends that are saying, oh, look, let's go and do this. I'll show you around here. We didn't do this. We wouldn't have this. Be coming over here on your own, very lonely trip. And I think it's amazing. So big up all you guys out there. Thank you.
Can I just add also, look, we had the pandemic, which was awful for everyone. But it was, for me personally, and I think for you as well, Dave, it gave this opportunity to meet fellow Spurs fans and build another family. And it was so good what came out of that sort of year. It was horrible. But for us personally, I would have never met you two or Nick. And for me, I think that pandemic for me was an eye-opener that we can come over here and meet people tomorrow. And it's down to these people that watch our channels that give us the opportunity to do this. But also, I think it's lovely that we've got a family, a Tottenham family, that we all can gather together and talk about the club we love. Because if not, we were just talking to ourselves.
My missus was fed up with it. She's delighted now.
So was mine, actually.
She's like, Dave, you may as well be speaking fucking Korean to me. I haven't a clue what you're saying.
So hold on, let me just take a note. Dermot liked COVID.
Okay. Thankful for it. Sounds like, he is right though, that it's, thanks to, I guess that period that we all actually do get to be in this privileged position to experience this all in a very, very special way that maybe not everyone does. It's nice to actually have Spurs friends, especially coming from a Yank like myself, where I was kind of just alone at 4:30 a.m. watching these games half asleep. Now I get to do it, all, baggy eyed and hungover plenty of times with
Teary-eyed
in front of
most
all
of
of
the
you
time.
guys, you know, on a regular basis. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Shem Tan saying, "Hey Jack, Dave, and Dermot, and Nick, hope all are okay. So happy to see you all in the same room together. It is really, really special, Shem.
It's
Thank
great.
you for the support." Kate and Jimbo, the perfect match, are in with
Come
us.
on.
Good to see you guys. And I am, you know, it does suck that we don't get to meet up with you guys, but there will be always a next time.
Is Jimbo okay?
Happy birthday, Kate. Happy birthday to Kate, too.
Oh,
Yeah.
happy birthday,
I think
Kate.
it's her birthday this
Happy
weekend.
birthday,
Yeah.
Well, even if it's not today, I'm going to get ahead of time because I'm usually bad at remembering shit. So happy birthday, Kate. And can we get a welfare check on Jimbo? I say he's in another stratosphere right now.
Kiwi Spurs TVs, big up to my Kings, big up to you. I think it's Levon or Le'Veon. Big up to you, my
Levon.
friend, Levon. And then the other David Harris is in the house, Dave. He's saying Lee's end of season notes will crap on about making the second European final in 6 years. So the other David Harris is in the house with us.
Oh, big up, Dave. Good to see you, my man. Brother from another mother.
I think he was enjoying that protest conversation by the looks of things. Daniel Larson is in with us as well. Pick up, lads. Hopefully you're having a wonderful time. We are, Daniel. And it's
Smiles, says it all.
great to meet you in person. But I know, you know, you are amongst many Norwegian Spurs fans. And I bet, you know, as much as Bodo Glimt, you know, was probably the underdog that everybody was rooting for, there is a big Norwegian Spurs population. I bet that is actually pretty happy with that result.
Did you see when the stadium cleared out? There was actually Spurs fans in the home, and
Yeah.
I think they were Norwegian. There was a good 30 or 40 of them there. One guy was just, I think Ben from We Are Tottenham TV called it on his match vlog. They're all at this 400 and I think 4 Spurs fans in one corner. And then Ben just sees this white Tottenham jersey amongst the sea of yellow. Like, I'm looking at him like, you know what, fair fucks to you, man.
I wonder if there's proportionally more Norwegian fans than there are, like, you know, when we went to Frankfurt, you know, I wonder if there might be more proportionally Norwegian fans than German fans. And Norwegians really seem to have a strong Spurs population. I know Daniel puts it down by saying, oh, they're more Man United fans, you know, but it seems like, you know, I've met a lot of Norwegian Spurs fans through this channel.
You would. You had the likes of Eric Torsveld and people like that. You know, they would bring fans with them. It's like Kulu and Bergvall. You know, they'll bring more Swedish fans with them. It's like with Ireland. You know, a lot of people like Tottenham back in the day that Dermo was always on about. You know, World War II. You know, when it comes to the likes of your Tony Galvins and players like that. You know, players that have played for Ireland. You know, and you know, when you're a young lad and maybe you're looking for a team to support, you sort of genuinely gear towards, okay, what are players that I like on the international stage, where are they playing and stuff like that. So I think, you know, of course there'll be fans out there. I think on the blog there was some guy with his baby, not Michael Jackson style, you know, hanging them over the balcony around, but he's there a good 20 yards back from the balcony, lifting the baby like it's a trophy in Tottenham gear with the scarf on the brilliant to see.
Well, it is a trophy in some sense.
Yeah.
85 saying, always said the Norwegian people had their heads screwed on the right way. Big up to you, ribeye. And then Eddie Joker Davis is waiting to collect his flowers and his apology letters, maybe some chocolates too for you, Eddie. Wemberley saying, having been on the last 2 marches, the one word you never heard was Ange. It's all been about Levy,
Good.
and rightly so. You're nodding your head, Nick. I mean,
I was at the first one. I happened to be there with my wife and got to see the first protest, yes. And I was surprised at the unity, aside from the one joker with the Levy inside at the beginning, which, you know,
Sean?
Spurs in North London, there's got to be shenanigans regardless.
Probably an Arsenal
No,
fan.
it wasn't Sean Butler.
Arsenal fan.
That was my first thought. But, you know, you know what? It was a very focused on what the message was. And it wasn't Ange out. It was, you know, this Enoch, this administration has messed up for multiple years in a row.
Yeah. And also, Eddie, you know, thanks for also the kind words as well. But Wemberley, I think you're 100%, you know, spot on by bringing that up. That the fact that, you know, the attention in these protests is not about how poor the team is doing. It's not about, you know, Ben Davies rants from Dave or I. It's not about, you know, whether we prefer Odegaard to Johnson. It's about, like I said earlier, and I don't want to repeat myself too much, but it is about the bigger picture that Ange Postecoglou's had to deal with Daniel Levy, but also as well with previous managers. It's some of the same exact problems that have repeated themselves over and over and over again. And I think Change for Spurs, Change for Tottenham has done an exceptional job at bringing everybody together, despite maybe some people, you know, feel more strongly about Levy than others. But I think the majority of Spurs fans know that he is usually the main crux of the issues and the main guy that does cause us to, you know, sort of go through these torments and, you know, these just headaches of seasons. And, you know, like I said, regardless of people's intensity of that frustration, we all finally seem like we're coming together, about it. And that's thanks to them. So it's very, very well done.
100%. Look, they've just hammered out the message. They haven't gone into individual spots, with people with difference of opinions. It's like, this is the message. If you want to come, you can come. And I think, they've sort of just allowed people to go down at their own will rather than being pressurized into it or whatever. And I think they've done an absolute brilliant job. And I think what's good to see is, yes, people can fall in behind change for Spurs with whatever, signs and whatever they want. But at the end of the day, the crux of it, and they stick to the message, we want change for Tottenham. And that's the main focus of it. And I think it's brilliant. We can sit there and go, Ange this, players that, but it's on side focusing. At the end of the day.
People will follow that. At the end of the day, if you make your message clear and properly, and you make it that everyone's welcome, people will follow.
Yeah.
People will get behind this. And this is why I think this has got such momentum, because it's for everyone. And it's right. It's not about Ange and the players. It's about the administration. It's about Levy and Enoch. And whoever people think about Ange or the players, they're parking that and they said, this is the main focus. And that's what people get behind it, because it's got one focus, one motto, one aim. And that's what it should be.
But I think in years gone by, and this isn't, I'm not having a dig at anybody that's organised. I think, fair play to anybody that's had the ball to organise. But in years gone by, there would be clips by certain outlets that maybe want to tarnish the protest of Spurs fans singing Sissoko's name, or, having beers in the hand. And they use that to tarnish the process or the protest to a large degree, And I think the good thing about it is that it's not really being sidetracked from. It's the message, and that's it.
I mean, let's get into the finer and grittier details, though, here, everybody. We will be talking about the lineup and also our preferences for that. Just maybe a quick question, though, maybe on Ange Postecoglou. Do you feel like he's been changing the tactics between the Premier League and the Europa League, Dave, or anybody wants to come in on that?
I think so. I think it's very different from what we've seen in the Premier League and the Europa League.
Why is that? Why is he trying to play a bit differently in the Prem versus the Europa League?
I think that Dave hit the nail on the head. I think you said it as well, Jack, that everyone's behind winning the Europa League. It's win at all costs. He's got to be tactically.
So he'll sacrifice his own principles to some extent, to win in the Europa League.
Yeah,
but in the Premier League, he wants to play his way.
He wants to play his way, but I also think he's learning about himself as well. He's evolving as a manager as well. This season, we've seen Ange evolve. You said it, I think, today. He's lost weight. The cough's gone, as Nick said earlier. I think what he's been through, he's learned an awful lot about himself. And maybe he said, well, maybe I'm failing a bit here. If I change this a little bit about my management, maybe I do have to compromise. And maybe he's evolving as a manager. And maybe we're seeing a newer, better version of Ange Postecoglou. And I do believe that. And I think we'll get the benefits out of that.
To be honest with you, I'm not sure he's changing up the tactics between Europa League and Premier League. I just think what you're seeing is the difference between the A team and the B team. The massive drop off in quality and how they can execute them tactics and stuff like that. But I also I do take credence to the Postecoglou has changed up from what he originally wanted to do to what we're seeing now. And I think the biggest reason behind it is, okay, your injuries and stuff will play a part, but I think he also realizes squad just isn't good enough to do what I'm asking them to do. They can't, especially at this level. Like he might have gone, my football works, but when you walk into Tottenham Hotspur and you're competing with Liverpool, Man City's, Arsenal's and stuff like that,
you're not the top team.
You're not the top dog. You're not the top team. And and I think there's a big realization that all these teams, like my squad, isn't on par. I have to be clever here. And I think you've seen that recently, and I think that's what you're seeing, where he's going, okay, well, instead of just continue playing out from the back all the time, let's mix it up, let's put it long, let's build up in their half. And I think that's what you're seeing, a recognition that I want to keep my job, and I know this squad isn't good enough, so I have to come up with something new.
Is he then still trying to instill his principles in that Premier League, where he is still trying to play his way, build out from the back, don't try to knock it long, try to sort of play the quick, sort of fast-paced football, but control possession, keep the team camped in their half, all these sort of Postecoglou-isms that I'm coming up with, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. Like he's made some sacrifices. He was, asking Vicario was when he receives the ball, just knock it long. Whereas you see in the Premier League, when Vicario receives it, he is still trying to play out from the back, in many sketchy scenarios. But the reason maybe he's doing that is just to not let the players forget, how he still wants them to play? I guess the Premier League is that venue to do it.
I don't know about that. I think me, you, and Box Office had a great jerkin circle about this last night. Where we were actually speaking about the coaches, right? Money Mason, right? For instance, he's been teaching pragmatic to football. Keeping your structure, your shape, defensively, etc. 11 men behind the ball. That's what he's been teaching for the last 4 or 5 years at Tottenham Hotspur. Then Ange comes in, and all of a sudden you're going to a guy that you've been asked to be teaching one way. But we want you to teach the team to how to go on the press. But if you don't have the right coaching staff to teach it, it's where it becomes an absolute disaster. And I think maybe is there an also recognition there of Postecoglou to a degree, because he's almost had to walk into Tottenham and train these staff into what he wants them to do. But he's not down on that pitch, and he's openly said that. He's not down there fucking on the training breaks, running the drills and stuff like that. He's left it in his staff hands. And I just wonder, has that also been a little bit of a mistake? Because if you're trying to play this way, it's alien to a lot of people. So surely you have to have a team that knows how to teach it. So I think there's a number of ways. Look, I think if he has a good summer transfer this window, and I think it's a summer that he likes, I think once we get this Europa League campaign this season out of the way, if he's here next season, he will resort back to trying to play out from the back. That's ultimately what he wants to do. But I think as a recognition now to weather the storm, he's changed.
Yeah. You have any final thoughts on that question, Nick, or shall we get into some of the lineup preferences?
Move on right now. I get a little distracted by the chat.
No. I think we definitely covered that, and Dave definitely has his thoughts, on the fact that Ange maybe has this slight difference between the Europa League and the Premier League. But John is agreeing with you, by the way. We also have Shawnee joining us in the house. Good to see you, Shawnee, from Spurs Talk Show. Really do appreciate the kind words, sir. Spotlight on Spurs. Good to see you. DJ AK as well, absolute legend. Ribsy, we'll get to your question, but I think you might know the answer.
You got Ribsy.
On that one. Pick up to you, Ribsy. And then
Ribsy's trying to start trouble as usual.
What's he asking? Did Dave have chips in London?
No, he knows.
You know the answer to that, Ribsy.
George Hill saying Spurs are on the way to Bilbao. Come on, you Spurs.
Tottenham's gonna do it again.
Come on, you Flat Cap Army. Georgie Hill. I bet he's probably a bit like Paul Connor. I think he's probably maybe a bit hungover from the previous,
Georgie Hill.
Yeah, Georgie Hill.
He's probably gone and got a full blow dry with his luscious long hair and everything. Treating himself. Big up, Georgie.
He's booked in a spa.
Head massage, scalp massage, and everything.
He was in Iceland, I remember, right, for one of the recent games or something like that. Maybe he's booked another trip back there.
Oh, actually, we need an update. Did you manage to persuade the missus to let you go and watch that game? We need an update, Georgie.
Yeah, you need to schedule a hot bath for yourself. You deserve it now, Georgie Hill. Appreciate the support and the love, my friend. Then Daniel Larson has come in here saying, question, if we win the Europa League, will you cry happy tears for, I think he's saying, I know I will.
It'll be everything. It'll be a release of emotion, of all the pain, the anger, the long nights where you think, what am I doing to myself? Are we ever going to win anything? And then also joy. It's going to be all your emotions coming out at once. It's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not even sure what my reaction will
be.
But
mostly it'll be tears of joy.
Yeah, I think I'll probably put on the shades again like I did, after the Frankfurt result. And maybe I'll just cry the tears underneath those shades. But, the IPAs will be a-flowing, Daniel Larson. And like I've said and warned people, I probably will be a little intolerable the next season. We'll just end up, we could lose a game 5-0, 6-0 to Liverpool again, and I'll just still say European champions. I'll just have that mentality. I'll be on the beach for a whole season.
Oh, if we win the Europa League, I'm going to be so arrogant with my support. You're any rival fan that comes in like, Dave, do you want to come on here and we'll have a chat about the game? No, who are you? Did you win the European trophy? No, I'm not going to be there. Good luck.
Yeah, people come here usually for, you don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much, but they want to come here for serious discussions. I do forewarn people maybe into next season. I think it will be hard for us to, wipe the grins off our faces after winning.
One thing we've always said is we know how to celebrate. We know how to do things well when we're winning. It's when we lose and when we get thrown out of kilter. So we start winning, it's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah. But Dave, we're Irish. We know how to celebrate anyway. So,
True.
Yeah.
True.
Well, let's get into these lineup conversations, everybody. Really do appreciate you all. Thanks for being in with us. Again, as always, smash the like button for us. And then also as well, share this to more and more people. And we hope to see you all tomorrow for the game. But we're going to get into, I think some of the questions around the lineup. I just had maybe an odd one here just to cast our minds back to the West Ham game, even though no one wants to, and probably no one remembers it because it was probably the most boring game that we had watched.
I went to sleep for 4 hours after it.
Jet, Spence, Ben Davis, they kind of struggled in that game. Ben Davis we kind of know that's the case. We've said before, like once he gets the new contract, you know, he's going to start mailing it in again. But with Jed Spence, that's what I kind of want to harp in on. I mean, some people said he looked pissed off in the game, you know, the West Ham game. So does anybody want to comment on that? You know,
Nick, you want to come in first?
Is Jed Spence kind of, you know, the one player that maybe isn't behind Ange? You know,
Yeah.
he's a bit effed off right now.
I think so. There's a little bit of friction, I think, between him and Ange. I think he was thinking he put a lot of good performances in when Udogie was out. And he's probably thinking, hang on a minute. I really put in good performances. I give my best. Now you're not picking me. Why? And I think that could be the only little bit of friction. Sure, Ben Davies is Ben Davies. I'm sure Dave's he's going to give you his version of how good he is and how much he loves Ben Davies and how much he did.
Ben Davies hates me. I got onto his plan this year about him trying to keep his
But Jed
85 grand a week.
Spence, I think there's a bit of friction there. I feel Jed Spence has been harshed on by. I think he's had a really good season.
Yeah.
I feel for me like he's been one of my players in the season, Jed Spence. He's really had this redemption story of coming from nowhere and getting back into the team and really being one of our best players. And I think Ange has used him a little bit harshly. And I think that's why you look at the West Ham game. Is it, what the F am I doing here? You know, you won't pick me for the big games, but you pick me for these crap games.
What's the psyche of Jed Spence right now, Nick?
You know, I mean, I don't disagree with you, Dermo. You know, I think it's rough for him, but this is football. You got to make hard decisions. So the questions you know, Spence has had a rough road for the last couple of years. We all know that.
Yeah.
A lot of it is his own fucking doing. I'm not part of this whole, you know, crying for him because everybody's abusing him, all kind of thing. It's not just Postecoglou. It's Conte. It's Daniel Farka. It's, you know, managers before that and in France too, man. It's, you know, a handful, you know. So Spence has to play his part in here. I think he's been fantastic this season. However, there was a little bit of a drop-off starting at the beginning of last month. But the question you really have to ask is, particularly in these Europa League matches, is he, when Udogie is playing well, and we know he had a stretch where he wasn't, but he needed to get back, is Spence a better left back than Destiny Udogie is? And an even better question is, who do you want at right back during certain matches? Pedro Porro, Jed Spence, have Pedro Porro's abilities been part of the reason that we've gotten this far? Because he's been playing Spence in the lesser games, in the league matches, and been saving Porro for the high pressure matches, and so far it's worked out. So, you know, I'm not crying a whole lot of tears for Spence right now. I think it's a rough road, but you know what? It builds character, and you know, learn your lesson from it, and keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, and don't fucking throw your toys out of the pram because it's not going to help you anymore.
Yeah.
You could also say, you know, what Faz Radfire is bringing up here, that Destiny has maybe proved to be better than Spence in recent games. And he's saying, having said that, though, Spence is still one of Ange's biggest fans. You know, he had kind words to say about Ange Postecoglou. So we could be reading too much into the body language of Spence. And just everyone didn't really have that great of a day against West Ham. So we could be reading too much into it.
No, they didn't. And look, it doesn't help that he's got weak link Ben Davies beside him, you know, and then also, you know, and then where that goal comes down their side, it doesn't help. But at the end of the day, I do sort of side with what Nick is saying and agree with Nick. You know, at the end of the day, you know, he came in, he's had a phenomenal, you know, impact when he first came in. But, you know, rejection is part and parcel of football. And it's how you handle that. It's how you come back from that. And
he doesn't handle it the best.
No, he doesn't. Like, you know, it's ever since there was a point there where Thomas Tuchel had come in, he was about to pick his England squad. And look, I think harshly, Jed Spence missed out. Yeah. But also, you know, I think it's how you handle that. You know, Maddison, ever since he's been left out of England, all you hear him about is crying about it. Okay, but what are you actually going to do about on the football pitch? That's where you get picked. You know, and I think it's the same with Jed Spence. I think, you know, Thomas Tuchel was probably doing a bit of a Postecoglou. Okay, I'm not going to pick him now, but I'm going to see how he reacts. And if he reacts and he's still putting the same performance, then he'd be in the next squad. And I think that's where Jed Spence probably lets himself down. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you put yourself in Jed Spence's shoes, you've worked so hard to get to this point. You've took so many rejections. You finally think you've nailed it. And then all of a sudden, rejections start coming again. But I think that will absolutely make Jed Spence's career if he can handle that rejection right. For me, you know, you don't drop your head. You go, okay, I've got myself to this point despite nobody thinking I'd ever get here. Let's continue it regardless of what Ange Postecoglou thinks or what Thomas Tuchel thinks. At the end of the day, Jed Spence doesn't have the excuse, down 2 is because I'm in the B squad. Well, if you want to displace Destiny Udogie or Pedro Porro, these are the games where you prove that you can do it. And that's the simple reality of it. Too many players at Tottenham think they're entitled to fucking minutes and don't have to earn them, and I'm fed up with it.
And that's the thing, is they feel they're entitled. And you shouldn't be entitled. You have to earn your place in the squad. You have to earn your place to keep your place in the squad. You have to earn your right to play. That's what being a footballer is. Earn. That's the main thing out of all of it, is earn.
But the thing is, I think in general, I do find the whole Jed Spence saga since he's arrived at Tottenham sad in general. Like, as soon as he arrived, Premier League dream, young 21-year-old, all of a sudden taken away, never going to play no matter what he done underneath Antonio Conte. I do find the whole situation sad, because the reality is there's a top player in there.
Yeah.
He can, not only can he defend one-on-one, and I think he'd be able to handle some of the best wingers in world football throw at him. But going forward, it's almost like having another winger at times.
Yeah.
He can take players on. He can play people through. He can cross the ball. He's not afraid to shoot. I like the guy. I think he's got amazing ability. But now it's about looking at this situation this summer and going, right, you've clearly proved you belong at Tottenham. Going forward, how do we get this out of you all season? What do we need to put in place to help you?
David Harris, your other David Harris, saying Spence's drop-off perhaps started around the Chelsea away game, but Porro's through balls have been a feature in the Europa League.
Yeah.
That, I think, is a decent point.
It's his passing range as well.
Udogie has been defensively quite solid since coming back. So that was, competition for Jed Spence. But then also, Porro does have that technical ability that neither Udogie or really Jed Spence have. Like, he has that X factor where he can whip in a dangerous cross, can play in a ball over the top. When playing out from the back, too, you would say Porro has that sort of cleverness about him where he can kind of mega guy, or he can pick a little dink pass into the midfield that others just don't see. He is probably, with Romero, probably technically on the ball the best of the entire
100%.
back four options. It's like a toss up between those two, really. And that's Porro. As much as he's been exposed defensively this year, he does have that edge over those twos, that he is just downright better on the ball.
100%. Look, I think Porro's got nearly
It goes
10.
a long way for Ange too in his tactics.
I think Porro's on 4 goals, 10 assists or something across this campaign. I mean, that's great numbers for a right back. Now that Trent Alexander-has gone out of the league, and I mean, they wank off over him there, about Trent Alexander, how good he is in possession and stuff like that. Porro's better. Porro's got a better passing range. I think that's what keeps Porro in the team, because especially now, the way we're playing now, because with Jed Spence or Udogie, you almost have to play this intricate football. They don't have the ability to find them passes. Whereas with Pedro Porro, you can expand your game. You can just say, look, midfielders draw people in, pretend you're coming for the ball. Porro hit it in behind Slanky. All of a sudden, you've isolated their backline. Porro gives you different dynamics with your tactics and stuff like that. And that's why he still plays.
Was it Porro that did the Man City goal for James Maddison? Did he cross the ball for that one?
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was the jumping karate kick for Madison, something like that. Yeah.
Look at the crosses Porro puts in. It's like he's a proper right winger.
So what's the excuse for Johnson?
Johnson's.
Somebody mess with John.
I'm thinking in my head for Johnson later.
No, I'm going to mess with
questions.
But you're spot on about the crosses. He is like modern day fullbacks, and their output going forward is important in the modern day game. And that has to be recognised. Defensively, you want them to be defensively solid, but what they contribute going forward does matter.
They have to do 2 jobs. They got to be a right back, but you also got to be a right midfielder. And Porro does that absolutely brilliant. And so does Udogie in a way.
On the ball, there's a lot to be desired.
What I'm saying with that, Udogie has to improve on his crossing ability, but he is getting there. And you have 2 bombing fullbacks coming down that can cross a ball, that can take on the men. So you've got Porro on one side, Jed Spence on the other. That leaves that midfield, as you said, they can draw back. That gives you so much more attacking options, going forward. When you've got your fullbacks that can cross a ball, and that's what you want. So, I think
this where I do think Jed Spence has been harsh done by, though. I think when I look at Destiny Udogie, don't get me wrong, defensively he's good, defensively he's solid. But going forward, I was thinking about this the other day when I was trying to think my predicted lineup for Bodo Glimt. Bodo Glimt. I was thinking, okay, for this game, Destiny Udogie or Jedi Spence-tacular, and it's like going forward. And I went back and watched games and highlights of them in the team and stuff, and I just think going forward, Destiny Udogie, and this is where I think this fucker needs to improve. because he could also be a phenomenal player if he improved his decision making in the final
Yeah,
third.
that's true.
I often find him poor when he gets into great crossing positions, and a lot of times when I think he's in great shooting positions, he never wants to pull the trigger. And I think at times it can come back and bite you. And I think it also, at large parts this season, when we haven't had end product, that's also contributing to it by making piss poor decisions. Because one thing he does, he gets himself into great positions on the breakaway, and he doesn't actually get praised enough for that. He always gets himself into great positions, but it's what he does with that ball. And I'd argue, I think Jed Spence delivers a lot more in them situations. And that's where I do think maybe Jed has been a little bit hard done by.
I mean, do be careful though, Dave, when you put Dermot on the spot about Johnson, because there isn't an internet, sort of delay or anything like that. He can't, just turn his camera off, or he can't, mute his microphone or anything. So
Is that spark tomorrow?
yeah.
Oh,
We now know Dave does not like sparkling water.
Jeez, can't even get muscles
no,
down.
no,
Oh
not
wow,
nice.
we're finding out.
It's like drinking
live.
salt,
Buddy,
no?
buddy, I thought it was Arsenal tea.
See, it's Dave
I thought he
drinking
slipped
vodka
it.
and lemonade.
Honestly, I tasted it. I thought it was still water. I tasted it. I was like, what's going on in my mouth here?
I thought he slipped him like isopropyl or something for a second there.
Because I'm pretty sure I had a glass earlier. It was still water, no?
No.
No, it wasn't. I think, did you down it without realizing earlier? Maybe you liked it.
Honestly, it was so warm getting here this morning. I needed H2O, so maybe that's the case.
Any Johnson questions? If you see me go out the room, that's
Yeah.
me pausing. That's me
It's
pausing
hard
my
when you're
monitor.
live in person. You can't hide. There's no hiding in this situation. Georgie Hill, thanks for being patient, sir. Saying, Davey boy, the missus and I caught the first leg while I was in a hot spring. Absolute scenes in the hot water were had.
So, well, I'd well believe that.
I bet they put up a sign after.
I also believe clothing's optional in them as well. So I think you had a great time. But I love the way Georgie did take our advice, include her in on the game plan activity or lie to her. And I think he took the right option.
I think they banned the TV near the hot springs, and then I think they banned a few things after.
I'm not sure it was the game he's watching. I think it might have been something else on that TV.
Yeah, absolute legend. DB saying the boys are in town. Big up to you, DB. Good to
Boys.
have you with us. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for all the support that you do show us. I do have some more questions that we're going to get through on this lineup.
Boys
The other
are
one
in
just
town.
kind of about the likes of Sonny coming back, of course. I mean, do we expect him to get 45 minutes? I saw on Instagram he said that good morning Spurs fans. I'm getting back on the pitch soon. So Sonny coming back, only a good thing, I would imagine.
Yeah, look, I think it's a good look. There's been a lot made around Son this year. Honestly, I think, yeah, to a degree, I can understand maybe he's lost a yard of pace, but also spoke earlier on about breaking up that partnership of Kane and Son. And I think Son has actually been the one that's lost out the most out of breaking up that partnership. And, I think there's a massive question. Does this guy start the Europa League final? Does he deserve to start the Europa League final? If he's not fit, are you getting yourself into a Harry Kane situation? But I think, if you're Son, you want to get back for that. That's why you stayed at Tottenham, right?
Yeah.
You want to be the one to deliver the trophy. That's why he's still here. He thinks he can still do it. So if you're Son, I think getting into the Europa League final is a motivator. But again, as we've seen with Harry Kane, how fit are you going into that final? And that, for me, is the biggest thing. I think, yeah, he can come out and have maybe 45 here. He can probably play against Aston Villa next Friday. But at the end of the day, if he hasn't produced and he's not fit, you're going into Europa League with a man down. You got to remember, we bet Man United up in Old Trafford 3-0 away from home without some. So we've proven this season, we've got Europa League this season, over Bodo Glimt without some. We've proven we can get the job done without them. And I think that's actually might what actually stand in our favour heading into this, because in years gone by, we sort of proven we couldn't get it done without Kane. We sort of had to rely on Harry Kane. Whereas I think the fact that we can play without Son, and it's a bit like what the Argentina manager done with Argentina. Before he started picking Messi, when he got the job, he says you have to play without him. And then once you can play without him, you can play with him and win with him.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's what stands in our favour, the fact that we can win without Son. And I think, if he comes back, then obviously you can win games with him. So I think maybe that might stand in our favour. But
Am I being selfish by maybe wanting Mikey Moore, to be in the flesh tomorrow? It'd be nice to see him.
I'd love to see Mikey Moore.
Yeah, absolutely.
So would Sonny be taking away from maybe a chance for Mikey?
Well,
Moore?
he'd probably only play 45, so there's still 45 there for someone
Start
else.
somebody else and, give Sonny some, we've got a couple matches until the final, let him get, if he's fit enough, let him get his prep minutes. I'm going to come in with a little bit of a controversial take that goes
Please
back
do.
to what you said too, man. And I'm going to preface that with, yes, we scored 3 away at Old Trafford with Sonny out.
Yeah.
Son has scored 4 goals on his own away
That's
at
fair.
Old Trafford in recent memory. And as far as the Harry Kane in the final thing goes, man, I disagree with a lot of people's takes from the get-go in there. And I think the selection was a big issue in that match, but we're coming up on a very similar issue. Harry Kane was not the problem. Harry Kane was always going to be a fear factor.
He couldn't contribute.
However, does everybody forget that Dele Alli was crap that entire season and he started?
Yeah.
Why did Morris start in the 10 where he was magic that entire season, and you put Harry Kane up there in front with him, but instead he put Dele Alli? Does anybody just not take that into account?
No,
His entire career went downhill at Spurs after that. And I say, as well, you're in a similar situation now. Son is a fear factor. He's certainly more of a fear factor than Matisse Tell, although I like Tell, and he's been doing a hell of a lot better, but he gives you that star factor that says, hey, this is a superstar on the squad that can hurt us.
Do you lose that press though, Nick? Like Richarlison's filled in there.
You absolutely do. You
absolutely do. That's the thing. Like, what do you want? You know what I mean? It's like some would argue the press is what's got us there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? But then again, look, and to your point, wasn't it Son that scored that corner kick that helped us win United at home? So, I mean, more to your point, look, I think it's a big decision to make. Look, I think most managers will lean towards their best player half fit. I think that's just a decision most managers make. No, look, most people don't agree with it. But if you're a manager in the dressing room, you are going to rely on your best player if he's half fit, and you are going to select him. That's just the way most managers have always been.
I feel like with 2019 Pochettino and Ange, I think Ange would pick the players for the job. Pochettino was so emotional. You said it before at the end of that semi-final. You said, I think your dad said, we've lost the final already. You look at Pochettino, you look at Ange. So I'm getting the surnames. You look at Ange. Ange will look at it and said, right, Sonny may be our captain, but I'm not going to pick him for the sake of picking them. I'm going to pick the team that I know is going to do a job. And then I can bring Sonny on with half an hour to go, take off whatever, give him the captaincy, let him lift the trophy as captain. What
evidence do you have to support that, though? Because it seems like he's been pretty loyal to Sonny in a lot of chances.
But you also got to remember, like when Romero Van de Ven was straight back fit for Chelsea, he brought them straight back in. Yeah, backfired, but he brought them straight back in. And the reality is, and everyone went mad, but the reality is, it shows managers are going to pick their preferred players, what they think is their best players. Like that, what you were saying there, Dermo, about the final. That's a bit of a different context. Like my dad was saying, we've lost the final because Pochettino is so emotional. He's not going to be able to keep the emotions away from the final, which will affect your team. And ultimately he was proven right. I think with Postecoglou, I think the difference is he's been there. He knows how to handle finals, and he might be able to detach that emotion towards the players and stuff, and it might actually help us perform on the night. But the reality is that's not going to do anything around his team selection. I think if Son's half fit, I think he plays.
I wouldn't play him. I wouldn't start.
Look, whether people would or not, I think Postecoglou will.
I know, but my opinion, I wouldn't start a half fit. I want everyone on that pitch 100% fit. Because the danger of playing the half fit player is A, he can get injured again. B, he's not fully fit, so he's not going to give you 100%. Yeah. So you've got a weak link already in that starting lineup. So you start with your strongest lineup, get into a lead, protect that lead, and then for the last half hour, take off, say, Madison, not Madison, but take off Odegaard or whatever, or Mathias Tell or Richie, put Sonny on, give him the captaincy, and give him that last half hour of playing in the final, lifting that trophy. But I don't believe in picking a player just for the sake of picking that player because it's Sonny. You have to be 100% fit to start in the final. That's just my opinion. And I know you slightly disagree, but that's just how I see it.
The thing is, we say 100% fit, but most footballers will say themselves, you're never 100% fit going into games in the Premier League. You're always carrying injuries. You're always carrying knocks. It's how you deal with it.
Just a couple more talking points here.
I think Nick wanted that.
We're into a pre-match for a game that doesn't happen for 2 weeks.
We're just here talking all of Tottenham's issues.
Yeah, got to get it all out while we're in person. The Alaskan Hotspur, good to see you in the house, sir. How are we doing, my friend? And then also Tartan Spurs is in with us as well. We're doing the best we can, my man, and also definitely enjoying London, especially being able to do something like this. I just have a couple more, and then I think we'll wrap up here. But, I think with this game kind of being a nothing burger, which Dave has coined, before in recent sort of results and games, do we want to go for an experiment at sort of the number 10 position? Because Kulusevski, he's probably very tired after Thursday night. I think he's still coming back from injury. I wonder if Spurs would benefit from giving him maybe some rest here in this game and just try something else? Because you don't have Bergvall, you don't have Madison. Do you try something with like Pop Montasar?
Well, let's ask you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question. What is the other option?
Let's ask Jack.
I would say he probably does have to look at maybe giving Sarr some type of confidence again. You know, I know he's kind of fallen out of the pecking order, but I am a big Pop Montasar fan. Probably bias is coming into this answer, but I think he probably could look at giving Basuma more chances, you know, to get some confidence in the team. Archie Gray will probably likely start tomorrow. You would imagine at probably maybe in the defensive mid position, or
think so.
You think he's gonna?
I think he'll go fullback.
We didn't talk about where. If we all kind of agree that Spence is playing tomorrow. Where
you play left back?
Is he left? And then does that mean Gray?
I think
Archie Gray might play centre back tomorrow.
No, I don't think so. I think he'll change the back four. You know, you look at Romero, Van de Ven, and Udogie. They've carried a lot of injuries this season. They've been out for long parts, playing off the Astro. And Postecoglou spoke about in his pre-match press conference. You know, off the back of the Tamworth game, we suffered injuries. Players were sore, stuff like that because of the surface.
So he would.
I think it's going to be the same.
He would risk Bentancur and Basuma, you know, for this game. Like
look, maybe he might bring in Callum Olasesi at some point. You know, he's been around.
Point.
But what I would say is I do think you will see that back four change. I think you'll see Jed Spence go at left back. I think Danzo and Davies will be rolled in at centre back. And I think you'll see Archie Gray go to right back again.
Okay. Well, that does mean then, you know, I think you definitely put Sarr into the team. It's just, you know, do you go Bentancur, Basuma, Sarr? Do you keep Kulusevski, you know, and give him more minutes? But I just feel like, you know, he's a guy that looks like he probably needs rest. You know, I don't know if he can, again, you know, do you risk him, you know, picking up, you know, the same injury or exacerbating, you know, the previous injury? I do have a lot of questions over who even plays in the number 10.
Do you think that he still looks like he needs a rest? Or do you, because I kind of feel like he needs more minutes, right?
Kulu.
Yeah, maybe
he needs to get back into his rhythm, you know, and it's not playing a full 90 against Palace at home in this stage. Definitely not, but he needs
might be right.
That's the thing.
To start.
I don't. Right in that, Nick. I think Nick's right in that. I think Kulu does need minutes, and you want the best Kulu for the final.
Yeah.
So give him the minutes tomorrow. I won't say what I normally say, Jack, put Brendan Johnson in there. I don't fancy being shoved out of the room.
with Kulu, though, I do think, you know, you got to take into account what's his issue. I don't think his issue is tiredness. I think his issue is match sharpness.
Yeah.
You know, if it's match sharpness, then he's got to get minutes into his legs. But I would also make the argument, I think if we could play a double pivot, I'd like to see Mikey Moore in that number 10.
Yeah.
He's played there for the underage teams.
Actually.
He's played there for the underage teams. He played there for under 18s and under 21s.
Would be a great number 10 if he gets time doing it too. So I'd love to see that as well.
I mean, yeah.
That's an experiment.
Yeah,
it is an experiment, but when are you going to get a chance to experiment like this? The league's a dead rubber. So you can experiment these teams with one eye if that's what you're maybe looking at going into next season. I think, you know, this is the time to do experiment. Now, not when you wanted to do it in the Europa League semi-final second leg and play 5 at the back, but, you know, now where there's dead runners in the Premier League, I think now is the time to do experiment.
Are you coming around to my idea of Brendan Johnson number 10 role?
No, Johnson will never, ever be able to play number 10 in his life. You could give him Messi's ability and he still wouldn't be able to play number 10. Because he doesn't have the ability or the mentality.
There are some experiments that are not worth experimenting. That's how we feel about it. But I'm kind of convinced by your guys' points. Like if Archie Gray is going to have to play at fullback, then maybe you do just look at just giving Kulusevski just more confidence. And maybe it isn't really match fitness. It might just be more match sharpness and just giving him more chances before the final because he is going to play instead of Madison just is out for the rest of the season. And we do need Kulu to be in his best version of himself for that final if we do stand a chance against United. Because I know Nick joked earlier, you know, we're talking about this final sometimes too many times, but you know, someone like Bruno Fernandes, you know, does really worry me, you know, as the real danger man in that team. And it would be nice if we actually had also some sort of maverick kind of, you know, number 10 like midfielder in our own team, and Kulusevski is the only option at the minute. So maybe you do try to give him confidence ahead of this game in a nothing game to an extent. Yeah.
No, I think you've got to.
It's a good theory.
I think you've got to, and I actually think Basuma will see out the rest of that midfield. I think Bentancur will be rested. I think with Basuma, he was rested for a large period there, so he's not as tired as some of the other players. So I think, again, he'll go in there, and I think, hopefully, I'd love to see Callum Olasesi come off the bench because, you know, with him, you got to remember, we, like, PSG were after him. I think Dortmund were after him, and a couple of other big clubs were after him, like they were with Mikey Moore. And I think, you know, he's travelled on the bench a lot this season, ahead of someone like Tyrese Hall, by the way, who had an amazing season last season. So I think it shows I think it speaks to the ability there, and that Postecoglou looks at that when he does look at the under-21 squad and looks at the midfield options. He thinks he's the best out of them all. And I think with Basuma playing Thursday night, I think there's a prime opportunity to take him off around 60, 70 minutes, bring someone like Olasesi in and blood him, give him an opportunity, give him minutes, because that is invaluable to youngsters. They will learn so much from that 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes they can come on and the game can pass them by, but then they start thinking about it, right, well, I'm nowhere near the speed or that, and I have to improve here. Or sometimes they can come in and hold their own, but if they want to affect games, then they use that to go and improve. These sort of minutes are invaluable for more Olasesis. And if we don't want to keep going down the route of having to register 6 fucking goalkeepers and David Harris as a seventh, just to meet homegrown statuses in Europe, you've got to do it now. Honestly, my whole lifetime, I haven't seen a crop come through 3 different age groups with the talent that they've got.
Yes.
And there's other players there that people aren't talking about,
Scarlett
like
as well.
Miracle Adewole, people like that. Some other serious players there as well. But I think if we ever want to get that, sort that homegrown crisis out, and I also think it's half the problem with Tottenham Hotspur now. You don't really have any players that love the club. That are really, when things are going bad in the dressing room, going, listen here, dickhead, this is my fucking football club. You don't want to be here, go. You don't have that in the dressing room. Everyone's sitting there inhaling balloons, passing joints around the place. I'm fed up with it. You need that guy in there that's going to stand up. And that has to be developed. And I think these games coming out the back end of the season is the perfect opportunity to have a look at them.
I mean, I know Yuki's been living in World War II.
It's only a joke. Yeah.
I know. And I probably do live there. But you look at the teams back in the 80s. Glenn Hoddle came through. Came through. You had Graham Roberts came from non-league. He was a young player. Started at Spurs. A lot of the 80 team was picked by Bill Nick. Yeah. Bill Nick was a scout back then. So you look at them players. We have done it before. We had what's his name? A lot of the 84 team. 3 of them came through the youth system. A lot of the players that got us to that final came through our Tottenham Youth Academy. Yeah. And then we that fell away. And as you said, you look at the players now who come through from the under 16s to the 18s to the under 21s. I even put Dean Scarlett in there. I think he should get a run out tomorrow. You've got a group of players that are ready to take Tottenham on to the next generation. And we've got to harness that. We harnessed it back in the day. Let's harness it again. Because for me, Mikey Moore has got the same talent as Glenn Hoddle back in the day. And we've got the next Glenn Hoddle on our hands in Mikey Moore. We've got to look after him. We've got to make sure he do. But you're spot on, Dave. Trust in the youth. United did it for the class of 92. Fergie trusted in his youth academy. They went on to major success. And I think on the range, and she's getting it now. We've got to use youth. To Palace game tomorrow. I start Dean Scarlett up front tomorrow. Give him a good, give him a start tomorrow. Rest Richie, rest Solanke. Give him a start. Put more put the front tree on the midfield. Some of them in as you would for the under 21s. They played together. They know how to. It's a not. You say
I understand what you're saying, but I look. I'm not sure you can start with them all. I think that then quickly becomes.
No, I meant start with 3 of them. Start more.
Even that, I still think is a bit much, Dermo. I think because you might be playing Palace's B team, but you can't remember they're still experienced players. They still got know-how, and sometimes up against youngsters that can't show. I think. I think it's good to have them involved at different variations through the game. Yes. But I wouldn't be so hesitant to start a lot of them. But I think it's a good thing to acknowledge what they've done in this Europa League to help us get to the final. I think that's been overlooked. Mikey Moore, if he didn't pull up trees in the group stages where everyone else was fucking down in tools, we wouldn't be here. If Ajayi didn't come off the bench against Salzburg and provide that spark, we wouldn't have been here. If Scarlett didn't come off the bench in a couple of them games and score goals, we wouldn't be here. No. So I think if I am Postecoglou, I think at some point tomorrow, I'm giving all three an opportunity at some point and saying, do you know what? You fucking earned it. You have been a massive part of this Europa League run, as well as some of the guys that's come to the fore in the knockout stages. But you guys have played your part and a massive part. And I think it's about time they get rewarded.
Yeah, I was going to say, as a reward. But Tottenham have always had a good youth policy. It's just one thing Paratici...
My lifetime, they haven't.
Yeah, but one thing Paratici has done, and it's bearing fruit, is what he did before he went on his holiday, was to build this youth academy we've got now.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the fruit of that.
Yeah.
Final question really is on, the strikers. I mean, I would go for probably Richarlison.
I think he'll
I
start.
think it's maybe I'm going to steal Nick's theory about Kulusevski. You just try to give that guy more confidence, more minutes in his legs, try to develop him, and hope that he could be his best version of himself for the final, because there's every chance that he might play.
We have to keep him fit for the final. Just even if he doesn't start, he offers something different off the bench. If you're chasing a game and you want to put balls in the box, that fucker's like a dog. You go after it. He's got that mongrel in him, and I think it's important to keep him fit. And I do think he'll start tomorrow, but I'm also a little bit concerned because if he does go injured, we know we ain't going to see him again for another, I don't know how long, 4 or 5 months. So, I think it is important that we keep him fit, and I think it's important we keep him as an option for the final. But I do think he'll start tomorrow because he come off early enough. Didn't he come off after like 60 minutes? Yeah, so he'll probably start tomorrow.
Well, I think that's,
and then telling Udebar either side of us, I think we're going with, are we?
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be telling Odebear, or like we brought up earlier, maybe a chance of Sonny, Mikey Moore, as well. But Tell probably should be, given minutes in this one. He has been kind of seen as the reserve. Johnson played his minutes, Dermo. Sadly, you're not going to be able
Johnson has no energy left, lad. Did you not get the memo?
I know, I'm giving the...
He's done more running than usual. He has nothing left in the tank.
I'm giving these Duracell batteries for tomorrow. I really want to see Johnson play tomorrow. This is my dinner. I really want to see him tomorrow. So...
Before we talk about our plans tomorrow, maybe take the time to do this now. Just please, everybody, take a look at the top of the chat. As always, for these, it isn't match day, but we have to, sort of discuss, NordVPN. Please take a look at it. Grab yourself a 2-year plan, 30-day money-back guarantee while you're traveling. Like I have in, this moment in time, I have been using it, quite often. Whether I'm on free Wi-Fi, whether I'm just sort of traveling about, it is good to have it because you never know. You could have your data or your information stolen, but also as well, in case of being a true Yank, I'm still checking in on my Mariners, so I'm able to get highlight packages, that are a bit longer, that reflect, the recent win streaks that they've been on. And also as well, when I wanted to watch back the PSG Arsenal highlights, I'll be honest, in the UK, it seems like in the BBC, whatever sort of platforms, you guys only get like these 3-minute, 4-minute sort of packages, which I don't really think, gives a fair reflection of the game. I didn't, want to know the score of the PSG Arsenal game, so I switched to a VPN and then watched back like a 15-minute highlight session of that game, and then was absolutely shitting myself. Maybe it was the wrong decision to do it, but it was nice to actually be able to move myself back to where I came, was able to catch, an actual real encompassing highlight package of that game. And you can use it for plenty of other reasons as well. You can get cheaper flights, be able to watch Netflix or Hulu, maybe some of the shows that you might be watching, you can't necessarily access them if you are in a different country. Plenty of reasons to have a VPN. And if you are in the market for one, do check out ours, pinned at the top of the chat. 2-year plan, 30-day money-back guarantee. And I think we'll wrap up with just sort of plans for tomorrow. I think we're going to the protest. We're going to go to one of the pubs. We'll probably, decide, maybe sometime later today, which one we'll end up all meeting up at. But we would love to see you guys. We'd love to meet plenty of you guys and hope to run into plenty of you on match day. But yeah, match day plans, match day preferences, Dave. What's the drinks of choice, foods of choice, that sort of thing as we wrap up here?
Well, me, I'll just have a glass of Cokes, ice and a slice, as you can see here. It's absolutely phenomenal. It gets me buzzing, to be honest with you. But no, look, tomorrow I think I'm going to head up around the stadium nice and early, park myself somewhere, even before the protest, park myself somewhere. People want to come and see me or whatever, I'll put it up on socials, and Jack and Nick and Dermo put it up on socials where we are. If you want to come down, feel free. If you don't or you can't, that's no problem. Like, don't feel like you have to or you're forced. And then, we'll probably hang around for a little bit after the game as well. So, we'll be around all day, so if you want to come and see us, just let us know and we'll organize it.
Yeah, and just in case anybody's confused, that is why we're doing the show today rather than tomorrow. So it's kind of a lower stress situation.
Yeah.
Because if we were trying to do this tomorrow before the match, it would be Scramble City.
Like the North London Derby, Nick, right?
Yeah, exactly. Headaches, everybody strangling themselves with mic cables, tripping on our way.
Nearly late.
And nobody wants to see that again.
No.
Well, maybe they do.
Maybe.
But we don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
So, getting to the stadium nice and early. I love a meat pie and a sausage roll at the stadium. I don't want to give Levy any more money than he has to, but
plenty good food on the high road, and also
we got last night
want to enjoy
unreal.
the game like normal people. I think
there's a lovely burger van just opposite the stadium.
True.
I'm definitely going to him tomorrow. But can I just say it's been great honor doing this for you guys in person. It's great seeing Nick and Jack again. It's absolute. I mean, we've done this 4 years ago. I was just saying to Jack for the AC Milan game, But this has like been an honor. So thanks to you guys, and thanks for inviting me along today and letting me do it. I really enjoy it, and I've had a great time over here, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow. So guys, I'll be putting up on my platform where I'll be as well. If I don't know people, I know people are going to come and watch the legends. But if you want to come and see me, I'll be parked near the guys, or I'll be milling around the stadium. So do come over, say hello, and I'll say hello back, and let's come on and support the boys.
And lastly, I also want to say, everybody in the comments, please big up Nick and Jack for making this happen.
exactly.
Look,
So Nick,
honestly, I just rocked up here today. Everything was set up, ready to go. And I almost sound like a diva or something like that. But Nick, not only did he have to bring all the equipment from America and stuff, but he's down here early setting it up. Jack's also got all the questions ready and stuff like that while I'm off gallivanting and stuff like that. So massive respect to these two gentlemen for making this happen today. And guys, Spurs are on their way to Bilbao. Tottenham's gonna do it again. They can't stop us, the boys from Tottenham, the boys from White Hart Lane. Hey!
Artist T, member for 7 months, protest got canceled. It did not, my friend. It did not. It's just that the walk out at halftime got canceled.
Let me double check that. Maybe unless they said something else out today.
He's got updated info.
Yeah, let's just update it.
We're going to check on that without it.
Jack's on it now. Yeah, okay, there's not.
I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah.
No, I think it's still happening tomorrow. I think even Billy T is going on to Last Word on Spurs, is going to talk about it. There's nothing on the Twitter that's suggesting that it's been canceled, Artist T. Thank you for the milestone
Big
and
up,
for the
Harris.
support, though, my man. Hopefully you're partying like Paul Connor has been, since the tension has been released from you.
I heard Artist T was going around America singing the Ant song. Is that true, Aris?
And just biggest fan. But everybody, we'll see you all tomorrow. Look out for posts and stuff like that, where to find us, where to meet us, and looking forward to enjoying it in person. Something we don't often get to do, and definitely will enjoy, because it is happy clapper atmosphere. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
I can't wait. But guys, we're going to wrap it up here. Honestly, we're going off to enjoy the sunshine. Anyone that does want to meet up today, just get in contact, blow the phones up. But as always, go and enjoy your weekend. We'll see you tomorrow. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. See you next time, everybody. Also, just lastly, if you did want to check out Photo Glimpse Review, it is available up for all the members. So in case you guys missed that, but we'll see you all tomorrow. Come on, Spurs.
In Big Andrew Trust.